Hi, I'm Scott Wrighton and I serve as Decatur City Manager, and it's my pleasure almost every week to give you updates on COVID and other activities of the Decatur City government. Our region's positivity rate now sits at 3.3%, and the Macon County positivity rate for COVID-19 sits at 4.2%. While these numbers are down a little bit, and that's good, both of them are still above the state of Illinois' positivity rate, which was last reported at 2.9%. Despite those numbers, the governor's office has announced that they will begin moving the entire state to what's called bridge status between Phase 4 and Phase 5, beginning this Friday, May 14th, and they will try to move the entire state to Phase 5 by June 11th. Phase 5 is the removal of all restrictions. The messaging from the Department of Public Health, however, is still a little bit fuzzy about whether masks are going to be impacted by the transition to Phase 5, so stand by for that. About 10%, give or take, of Macon County's total population has been infected by COVID-19 since the beginning of the pandemic back in March of 2020. And as of just last week, about 30% of the local population has been fully vaccinated. When you put those two together, it means that only a little over 1/3 of Macon County's residents are resistant to the infection, when you consider that some people who had the virus probably also got vaccinated. This percentage of the total population that is resistant to COVID-19 sits still well below many of our nearby and surrounding sister counties here in central Illinois. That is a problem. Vaccination remains the best defense against infection and the best strategy for getting our lives and our economies and our health back to normal. There is plenty of vaccine available here in Macon County. Between the health department and other local health providers and local pharmacies, there are literally thousands of doses just sitting on local shelves waiting to be used. The Moderna, the Pfizer, the Johnson & Johnson, all of them in sufficient supply. In accordance with Governor Pritzker's scheduled return to Phase 5 by mid-June or so, the city will also be making a return to the city council chambers for most of its city meetings, beginning in June. What this means for you, the average citizen, if you're somebody who watches those meetings, you know that we've been having the meetings in the theater of the Civic Center. Because of the size of that facility and the technical requirements involved in having a meeting in that such a large space, the video quality just isn't as good, no matter how good our IT team does of filming it, just isn't as good as when it's here in the city council chambers. So with the return of most city council meetings to the city council chambers beginning in June, you can expect that watching those videos of city council and city plan commission and other meetings will have better quality and be, frankly, easier to watch and easier to listen to. There's been a fair amount of media coverage recently about the city council's decision to deploy cameras in some of our neighborhoods. Unfortunately, that TV and newspaper coverage has focused on the fact that the cameras that'll be deployed are what we call LPRs, or license plate recognition cameras. While this is true, this focus on LPR really misses the main point for why the mayor and city council made this equipment decision in the first place. We use these cameras basically to collect data so we can solve crimes. Those videos might show a suspect moving north instead of south, and it will tell us what he or she was wearing and whether or not they had a gun, whether or not they threw the gun, or whether they went in a direction where we might have another camera. Now, if they get into a vehicle and we can read the license plate on that vehicle, that'll help us track that suspect. But it's not primarily about license plate recognition. And when the media focused on license plate recognition, I think that probably set off some alarm bells in some people's minds, thinking, well, this is really just a form of red light cameras, or the city's only doing this to catch speeders, or aren't there some personal privacy issues involved? It is about assembling and collecting data so that the police department can solve crimes. The fact that they have resolution quality equal to license plate recognition is really a secondary issue. Furthermore, all of the data that is collected is dumped, erased essentially, after only 30 days. And when the cameras are in use, it's not like there's somebody sitting behind a big curtain watching them all. That's not the case. The information is simply stored, and if we had an incident in the vicinity of one of those cameras, then we pull that information so that we can, as I said earlier, collect information and data necessary for the police to solve crimes, to get more information to find out what happened. So I hope that helps clarify a little bit what the City Council was really trying to do. The focus is on crime prevention, not on catching speeders. On May 10th, the City Council conducted a study session, and the focus of that study session was Lake Decatur. The Mayor and City Council have, for the better part of 2 years now, been bringing together a significant amount of special consulting data and bringing experts in to help them identify additional water sources for the lake for the next 30 years, for major capital improvements that have to be made to the South Water Treatment Plant and to our water distribution system, as well as what we need to do to our watershed so that we don't have to repeat a $92 million dredging project in Lake Decatur. And all three of these reports coming together at about the same time. And so they began the process of going through that, going through some of the consulting recommendations so that they can make good planning decisions based on good data and good recommendations and a lot of research that will affect the city's water utility, its water resources, and the lake for the next 30 years until the year 2050. So they had the first of those meetings on May 10th. They'll have another one in June, and then sometime later this year, they'll be preparing to share those recommendations about how one of Decatur's greatest assets, Lake Decatur, can be made an even stronger asset and sustainable for many decades into the future. Also, related to the lake, the city will begin gas sales for boaters on the lake later this month. As many of you know, the Park District decided to remove and disassemble all of their gas selling equipment that they used to have closer to the Devon, and that removed the last retail sales of gas on the lake. The city has had gas pumps for some time, but we only use them for fueling our lake patrol boats. So we are making changes to the dock down there by the city's facility next to the lake so that regular boaters can get into a slip right next to the existing fueling facility. Those improvements, those dock extensions are still in progress, but we expect by about May 25, it'll be possible for you to purchase gasoline on the lake and make your boating experience better. We hope that you enjoy boating on Lake Decatur and the other experiences and opportunities here in Decatur, and thank you for taking time to listen to this video and for all that you do to make Decatur better.